Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
Texas A&M University did a study of the 45 United States presidents, and they ranked them in the order of their popularity as to how they affected the United States of America. And Barack Obama came out fifth. Let me tell you how this happened. After 8 years in office, Americans have rated President Obama the fifth best president ever. Here are the details from that Texas A&M study. First, Reagan, Lincoln, and Trump tied for first. Second, 23 presidents tied for second place. 23 of them. 17 other presidents tied for third. Jimmy Carter came in fourth, and yes, Democrats be so proud, Barack Obama came in fifth. And I love this study. Good morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith, and God bless America. Followed by a patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance. Call in. Come on, let's do things right. Good morning. And a good morning to you, Zeb at the Ranch, with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you with the best in tires. You stop in and see them today. Along with our friends at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Right now, let's go to the phone line and have our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
My friend.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That was really well done. Thank you, Doug. Talk to you in a few minutes. Thank you, my dear friend. Right now, let's head for the weather forecast, and the weather brought to you, as it is every morning on my program, first thing, right out of the chute, K&R Rental, 256 South, 600 west of Hayburn, right there on the Burley-Paul Highway. Roger and the crew get there early in the morning to help serve you, and I'll bet you it's kind of chilly in that office over there early in the morning. They have the best of tools and equipment for both long and short-term rental. Get a hold of them. Don't forget they've got everything. If you haven't blown out those sprinkler lines, you might have a little bit of a testy situation. And don't forget, too, they've got the equipment to winterize all your gardens. Get them ready. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Chilly temperatures for today, but we will be warming up as we make our way through this week. Here's a look at your weather forecast. Sunny skies, a light breeze out of the west, right around 5 miles an hour. Looking at a high of 38. Tonight, mostly clear, below freezing temperatures, low of about 16. So you might have to scrape your windshield tomorrow morning. Tomorrow, looks like sunny skies, high of 47 with an overnight low of 21. By Wednesday, sunny skies, 55, 60 for Thursday, mid-60s for Friday. That's a look at your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
It's going to warm up, I hope. Right now outside my studio, I've got 16 degrees. It's a little chilly. K&R Rental with Roger and his great crew over there on the Burley-Paul Highway. And believe me, they've got the best of long and short-term rental on all the equipment you need to finish any kind of a job. So get a hold of them today. Call first if you have questions, 678-3122. A&R Rental. Really, really good folks. Caller, stand by. You know the drill. I'll be there momentarily. I also want to remind everybody about Daryl's Cleaners. Hello, Kevin and Cindy. I am going to try to get down there today. I've got some things I have to take to the cleaners, and they do the best job of anybody in the prolonging of your clothes. Why just buy all the clothes for all that money and then just don't take care of them? It doesn't make sense. So take your clothes into where they do take care of your clothes. Excellent hands on your clothing for dry cleaning, and they'll do all your washing. They can do everything at Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. You stop in and see Kevin and Cindy today. Hey, by the way, don't forget, go vote. We the people have the civic obligation to choose our leadership. Be sure and vote for the candidate of your choice on November 3rd, next week, Tuesday. This message paid by the re-elect District 27 Representative Fred Wood Committee, Steve Westfall, Treasurer. Want to also give a great big shout out this morning to our friends over to Ramsey Heating and Electric. And if you're not ready for the cold weather, and maybe your furnace, you turn it on and it goes groan, and maybe it needs new furnace filters, you'd better get in there. They've got them all at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Open at 7:30 in the morning till 5, Monday through Friday. For all your heating, cooling, and electrical needs, a company that's been in business for almost 7 decades. Ramsey Heating and Electric, 678-0459. Caller, good morning. Thank you.
Well, good morning to you, Zeb, and your whole family.
Well, thank you, Keith. Appreciate that.
Okay. You know, the word is that Biden is only getting softball questions, and there's no question about it. But watching Lesley Stahl last night make a fool of herself because she didn't know what to say when he said, "This interview is over.
Right.
Goodbye." You know, and I don't think she's used to being treated so nice or bad or whatever you want to call it.
Well, let me just say this, Keith. I don't know. I kind of look at it as a rudeness somewhat on behalf of the president. And bear with me, hear me out on this. But the president has been treated so poorly in his 3 years leading up to this re-election campaign, and I don't blame him. Lesley Stahl and CBS were setting a trap for him, and they were trying to bid him into an opening where they could close the curtains and have a massacre because they were just absolutely out for blood. I don't like Lesley Stahl. I never did. And I absolutely, in this case only, and I don't believe in rudeness, but in this case, I thought the president handled it the way I would have. I would have gotten up and said, "Thank you very much for your time, Lesley, but you're not going to set a trap for me," when at the same time, you're not doing anything like that with Joe Biden. And that's my feeling on it.
Well, that's good analysis. It's the best I can think of right now. But when he got up and left, she just said, "Be careful."
Yeah. And the other thing that I really liked was Kayleigh McEnany was there to give her a great big file of information that would have backed up and solidified what the president was talking about. And then Kayleigh just basically walked away. I think it's time to snub the Democrats. It's past time. We're only 8 days away from the election. But what's going on in the Biden camp and how they're getting away with things, and especially the Hunter Biden computer story that's being ignored by 99% of the media. The only ones that are really touching it are Fox News and private broadcasters like myself. But it's just absolutely disgraceful that Joe Biden is getting a free pass, sitting in the basement and doing nothing.
Well, where did he suddenly get all the energy he has? His energy comes from his anger. Don't you agree?
Well, Joe Biden, I don't know. I think Joe Biden is absolutely, he's down to the bottom of the glass. He's down to the bottom of the glass. And I think you will concur that if, for some strange, absolutely heinous reason, he wins the presidency, Keith, I think you know as well as I do that he will not serve a full year as the president. He will absolutely, because of some factions, whether it's the 25th Amendment or whatever, that might be implored by the Democrats. I think he's gone, he's history, and we're going to be looking at one of the worst senators that could ever take over the White House, and that's Kamala Harris.
Absolutely. And, you know, he's going to try to, in these closing days, he's spent so much money on this TV, radio, everything. They threw everything at it. And if they don't get it, he doesn't have a prayer of a chance.
You got it. Hey, listen, man, I do appreciate you. Every morning you kick things off for me, and I appreciate that. God bless you. I got to do some commercials. Thank you very much. Caller number 2, I'll be right there, I promise. Clark Kaufman asked for your vote to re-elect him as Idaho State Representative, District Seat 25B. Even more, Clark wants you to get out and exercise your right to vote. Clark Kaufman has served Idaho well since 2012, serving you, serving all of Idaho. In order to logically keep our voices heard, Clark encourages you to vote yes on the constitutional amendment, changing the language to simply require the legislature to consist of 35 districts. Let's all do our part. Get out and vote. Paid for by the committee to re-elect Clark Kaufman for House 25B. Debbie Kaufman, Treasurer. Want to also urge everybody to go eat. Go eat. Where? Well, go to Denny's Restaurant, America's Diner, at 611 North Overland in Burley and 291 Pole Line Road in Twin Falls. I mean, you're big talking about menu choices. Delicious. Underline that word, delicious. Served by the nicest of people. And the turkey dinners and delicious pies are looming on the horizon at Denny's Restaurant. 611 North Overland in Burley. It's true. It's America's Diner. Caller number 2, thank you for your patience. Go ahead, please.
Yes. Good morning, Zeb. Chilly morning.
Oh, yeah.
You know, Joe Biden is blaming Donald Trump for the outbreak of the virus. Well, we've got to get this thing straightened out. He did not cause the explosion of that stuff in France, England, and Italy. Let's put the blame where it belongs. Fu Manchu up there in China is to blame for it, not Donald Trump. He has done more to help eliminate this thing than all the Democrats are doing is mouthing off about it.
I tire easily, and my patience has already been turned out of the barn in the pasture against the stupidity, the absolute stupidity of the Democrats that sit there and point their finger and say, Donald Trump killed this many people. Donald Trump allowed this many cases of the coronavirus. Let's call it like it is. The absolutely evil, sinister, damnable government of China caused this problem, and let's point the finger and keep it pointed at China, not our president.
Well, one last thought. If it says China on it, leave it on the shelf. They need to be punished.
I can't argue that. I am absolutely a fan of what you just said. I don't want anything to do with China, and I will not buy anything that is from China. I detest the government of China for what they have done to the entirety of the world and have caused all the death and chaos, not President Trump. So let's get the record straight, and I just wish the Democrats could take an IQ test, find out that they're not smart enough to realize who really is at fault.
Well, amen, brother. Keep doing doing what you're doing, Zeb.
All right, Tony. God bless you and Mary. Stay warm. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Caller number 2, I'll be right there. As you know, we're busy. We've got to tell everybody about Dino's Septic Service. Oh, the best of septic tank pumping and backhoe services, water and sewer lines installed, sewer and sink drain lines cleaned, liquid waste removal. You don't want to take the time for that, nor should you, because you've got the pros right here in this area that serve all of southern Idaho, and that's Dino's Septic Service. You get a hold of them today. Call them at 436-6526 or 678-1638, and in Twin, 735-8281. The best. Dino's Septic Service, with a big truck that says, smells cargo on the way. Dino's Septic Service. By the by, don't forget to vote November 3rd for an Idaho representative that has worked very hard to help preserve and enhance our agricultural industry, protect our resources, and stand firm for family values. I'm talking about Lori Likely, State Representative, District 25A. Lori knows what's important for Idaho to grow and prosper, and she wants your vote November 3rd. Lori Likely for District 25A, paid for, Likely for Idaho, Bill Likely, Treasurer. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Thank you.
Good morning, Zeb. Yeah, China considers the U.S. to be their number one enemy. They're building up their military at an extremely rapid rate, using the trade deficit, which is still about $500 billion, despite all of the... It's better than it was, but it's still way too low. And I agree that we shouldn't be buying anything that says China on it. And sometimes, we don't even know some of our medications come from China.
Mm-hmm.
We know they've poisoned our pets by beefing up the protein by using like Melmac. When you grind it up, it shows a high protein. I mean, they've been trying to poison us. I also know that the electronics that they export out of China has a more harmful frequency, so any TVs and so forth that you buy from China, I mean, they've been trying to kill us one way or another for a long time, and the idea that this Wuhan lab, Tucker Carlson had a young gal that escaped China. She worked in the lab, and she said for sure that this was a lab-made virus, and China put it out to the world, and of course locked up their people, and anybody that got it there, they let them die in their apartments. They cut off the services, and just this is the kind of totalitarian regime we're dealing with.
Yeah, but wait a minute. Whoa, Adrian, wait a minute. Let's pinpoint things, because I've got a lot of things I have to get on the air this morning. Number one, quickly, and don't make a long answer out of this. Why is it that the American public is so gullible and, quite frankly, naive to point the finger at President Trump when really the damnation and condemnation should be against China?
Well, absolutely, but the mainstream media is so hateful of Trump because they're basically controlled by the globalist elitists that want a one-world government, and Trump has just, totally put a monkey wrench in their plans, and that's why they hate him so bad, and we can be thankful of that, but that's what the United Nations, we had the United Nations Day over the weekend, and 75 years they have hated America and so forth. But China, we kicked out Taiwan out of the United Nations and allowed China in and so forth. But this laboratory I wanted to mention, guess where they got some money? The National Institute of Health, Dr. Fauci, $3.17 million went to that laboratory from us U.S. taxpayers.
I know it.
To that lab.
Yep.
And guess what they did? They developed this COVID-19 virus, and now it's come back to us.
Absolutely.
So, it has some U.S. roots. I don't trust Dr. Fauci as much as I pick up. I'd like to flatten that lion nose of his.
Okay, thank you, Adrian. Appreciate it. First time I ever heard you talk like that. God bless you. Have a good day. I got to run.
Friends, other places. Get get out and vote if you haven't already. And the debate last Thursday was unbelievable. The old saying, Trump took Biden to the woodshed.
All right, got to run. Got to run right now. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Yeah, I don't think there was any question. And if there is a question in your mind as to who won the debate, if you wanted to declare winners and losers, I don't think there's a question. I thought Donald Trump handled himself as professionally and as educationally as he did last week in that debate. I thought he did an outstanding job. And Joe Biden, he was sometimes lost, had no idea where he was. Calls are welcome. And caller, I think we've got another call waiting. Stand by. I'll be right with you. Vote November 3rd, and be sure to vote yes for the levy increase for the Rock Creek Fire District. They are always there to serve us. Now let's help them. Vote for the Rock Creek Fire District levy, paid for by Rock Creek Firefighters Association. Caller, real quick, I've got about 3 minutes before a hard break. Go ahead.
You betcha, sir. Yeah, it's that Lesley Stahl interview with President Trump, what little bit I've seen of it. What an arrogant woman.
Mm-hmm.
Very arrogant. And saying they do not put anything on the air that they cannot verify, but yet they run that Russia for 3 years, and some of them got Pulitzer Prizes on their reporting of it, and yet they say they can't run the Biden laptop deal because they can't verify.
Yeah, Doug, you know something? You just brought up an excellent point, Doug. And Sean, we got a little feedback here, just a little. There was a commercial on television this morning, as a matter of fact, about CBS News and how honest and just loaded with integrity they are, and how the American public can trust them for news stories that have absolutely been validated. And I thought, barnyard material.
Oh, boy, yeah. Bovine droppings.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then that book that was it McElhaney? I can't really pronounce her name, but that she brought out and gave to Lesley Stahl.
Kayleigh McEnany, yes.
Yes. That book is Obamacare, the way I understood it. That is the law, Obamacare. All those pages are the law of Obamacare.
You know, I've got to say something to you real quick before I run out of time, because I want your opinion on this. As of this morning, when we went on the air, we are looking at numbers of almost 60 million. 60 million people have early voted. And it just makes my back of my neck, the hair stand up with hatred for early voting, because there's so much more that they didn't know when they went to the polls that they should have known. And I don't care if I have to stand in line. I don't care if I have to wait to vote, but I'm going to vote on November 3rd, and I condemn the early voting.
And there's a lot of Americans that are going to do that. A lot of Americans, a lot of conservatives are going to do that. And I was hearing this morning about Philadelphia, how they're set, Pittsburgh, how they're set in Philadelphia. They're going to try to steal Pennsylvania with Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Because of the way they've got the voter fraud set up. But if there's enough people through the counties, rural counties in Pittsburgh that will vote, they don't have enough fake votes in Philadelphia to steal the election.
This is just so sad that we're talking about lack of voter integrity. And that's really what it boils down to. Doug, I've got to run because I've got to give away some cookies. Thank you so much.
You bet. Everybody, let's do what we can for our senior centers. Let's go eat there and leave with a full tummy and a full heart.
There you go. Absolutely well said. Hey, don't forget, November 3rd, District 24A needs Paul Thompson in the Idaho House. That's right. Paul knows we need values established by God, fiscal responsibility, and all life matters. The right to protect ourselves and guaranteed freedom to worship and speak. A strong state education system and patients are in charge, not politicians. And above all, our Constitution is never second to anyone. Vote Paul Thompson, District 24A, paid for by Paul Thompson for Idaho, Issy Gibbs, Treasurer. Absolutely. Want to acknowledge, too, that we're going to give away some cookies right now. A dozen cookies to the wonderful, delicious Sophie's Chatterbox. What a restaurant, what a bakery at 530 East Street in Rupert. If you're the winner, call them and let them know when you'll be over to pick up your cookies. It is phenomenal. I'll tell you what, we had a peach pie here not too many days ago from Sophie's Chatterbox. Whoo, knock your boots off good. All right, here's the question. And if you're the winner, don't forget to call over and let them know when you're going to get your cookies. Name the country singer that had the big, big hit called King of the Road. Name the country singer that had the big, big hit called King of the Road. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call. Quickly. Name the country singer that had the big, big hit called King of the Road. Good morning, caller. Who was it?
It was Roger Miller.
And who is this?
This is Jack Alexander.
Jack, you're going to love cookies, I hope, because you just won them. Jack Alexander, you are the cookie master, so call over to Sophie's and tell them when you're coming in, okay?
Thanks a lot.
You bet. It was Roger Miller, and there was a time that Roger Miller just kind of owned a spot on the top 10, if you will, for country music. And, he had some goofy, you can't roller skate in a buffalo herd and all this kind of stuff. I loved it. And he was like that in real life, too. He was kind of wackadoo. Roger Miller, King of the Road. Absolutely. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. The thing that got me so stirred up the other day was the lying. The fly hit my microphone and I hit the fly and the microphone almost tipped over and it was kind of an almost tragic wreck. The lying of Joe Biden and his staff, including people like his deputy campaign director. I've got copies of all the news stories where Biden said he was going to end fracking. I have copies here on my desk when he says he's going to end the fossil fuel industry. I have copies of stories here on my desk when he said he's going to go after guns and take away our guns, and he said, bingo. And it just, how did they get away with this? It's on tape. It's recorded. It is absolutely there for you to look up, and he did not say anything other than, yes, he wants to eliminate fracking. Yes, he wants to eliminate fossil fuels. Yes, he wants to take our guns. Bingo was his famous remark. And Donald Trump held him to the fire on this at the debate last week. Absolutely. But it just absolutely amazes me that this man can stay in the basement. And then when finally asked about what's going on with Hunter Biden's computer, he can say, well, it's just another Russian hit job against him. Why, Trump's got the Ruskies after me, and they'll say and do anything so that I will be possibly not president. Well, Joe, the reason you shouldn't be president is A, you're not qualified, B, you're not qualified, and C, you're not qualified. And what really bothers me and should make every voter really stand up and take notice of this, there's only one network that has had the backbone and the spine to stand up to the Adam Schiffs and the Pelosi's and the Schumers and the Durbins and go after the information regarding what's on that computer and the tying in of the big guy with Hunter Biden, which is Joe Biden, for this big, big money spent and procured for the Biden family. I just don't understand how they can keep lying. I just don't understand why the American public has been duped into thinking that he's a white knight on a charging horse going across the hills and valleys for the American public. No, he's not. Joe Biden is a loser. And if we elect him as president of this country, we will all be losers. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Don't forget Barry Equipment and Rental Sales Service and Parts, 3 locations, 159 West Highway 30 in Burley, 465 Addison Avenue West in Twin, and the Nampa location. I can tell you exactly where that Nampa location is because I've been right to it, and they've got all the equipment you need for the lifting, the digging, the pushing, the carrying. Oh yeah, they've got all the Bobcats, all the shapes and sizes, the trenchers, the scissor lifts. They've got all the Doosan wheel loaders and excavators. They've got phenomenal lease programs and great financing programs to buy. You better get in there today. Barry Equipment and Rental. Burley, Twin Falls, and Nampa. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
It's me again, Margaret.
Well, there you go.
Hey, did you see that interview with Biden and his wife, and he said 4 more years of Bush, we can't afford it?
The man has lost it. And the general news media, tell me if you think I'm wrong, is absolutely giving this old codger a free pass.
Exactly. They scream and holler about President Trump and his physical ability, where he was supposedly was in the hospital taking all these drugs and stuff, a couple years ago. But yet they refuse to hold anybody else to the same standard.
Yeah. Did you happen to see, and I'm sorry, I'm really kind of herding you down a path here, Doug, for time reasons, but did you happen to see that gentleman, that a former United States Navy officer, and his name is Tony Bobulinski, when he had the press conference the other night and said absolutely the Bidens, Hunter and Joe, were procuring money for themselves and their bank accounts with other minions come from China, etc. Why? You got to ask yourself, why would he want to endanger his life, which he did? He put his life on the line. Somebody might try to shut him up. But why would he put his life on the line if it's not true?
Bingo. Right there, you nailed it right on the head. I mean, this man is a patriot for what he's doing. Yes, maybe he done some bad things, and he said he did. And he said, but I'm a patriot, and I cannot stand by and let these lies be told.
Well, number one, if Hunter Biden took the computer into a computer shop and signed for the repairs, and then they find, after it wasn't picked up for a long period of time, and when they checked into the computer, they're finding not only a whole bunch of emails about money coming from foreign countries and going to the Bidens and the big guy, along with a whole bunch of porn and underage kids on that computer. Golly gee, you would think the news media might want to say, we'd better investigate.
Yeah, but they don't investigate because of the people involved in it.
Bingo.
I mean, if corruption could be cleaned up in Washington, it'd be great. But Republicans or Democrats do not want to clean it up because they are afraid of what's going to be brought out about them.
Your point's well taken there. We need to hold our finger of accountability in the face of both the Democrats and the Republicans, because I think what you just said really is very, very true, that if all of a sudden they open the closet door, there's going to be a bunch of bones hanging in both sides of the aisle.
Exactly, and I think we need to insist and start by releasing the list of the senators and congressmen that used the slush fund to pay off sexual abuse cases.
I agree. No, I totally agree.
Start right there.
I agree. I just think that tonight, Amy Coney Barrett should be voted in. And to the Democrats acting like spoiled kids at recess at kindergarten, not eating their crackers and milk and not showing up the other day to vote, shame on them, and they are disgusting.
Well, if they don't show up to vote tonight, then she will be voted in unanimously.
With the exception of two Republicans, that I don't have a lot of respect for, Murkowski and Collins.
Yeah, I think Collins, didn't she say, or no, Murkowski Pelosi, the one from Alaska.
Yeah.
Didn't she say that she's going to vote for her? But the other one isn't because of what Mitch McConnell done with Obama's pick.
Well, let's just say it like it is here real quick, Doug, and then I've got to get that other call in.
Yeah.
But, I heard over the weekend not less than 6 Democrats that were being interviewed, and they compared what's going on with Amy Coney Barrett as packing the court. May I tell these people that are intellectually deprived, no, it's not packing the court. It's called filling a vacancy.
Exactly. But the reason they're saying that, so the uneducated and the uninformed voters that follow them like sheep, is what they're going to say to everybody, too, because they're too lazy to look up facts for themselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
The most effective weapon is a self-educated mind.
Well, now you're eliminating a lot of people that are in public office like Pelosi and Schumer and others.
Well, I seen a mask that works real good on Pelosi. It was duct tape. I tossed them out.
I got to run. Thanks, Doug. Appreciate it. All righty. Hey, caller, I'll be right there. I promise. Don't go away. Go vote November 3rd and vote yes. Excuse me. Still got that raggedy old cough. Vote yes for Amendment HJR 4 and leave the number of legislative districts at 35, guaranteeing that our voices will be heard on all issues and also preserving rural representation. Paid for by Speaker of the House, Representative Scott Bedke, District 27, Sarah Bedke, Treasurer. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, sir. I take exception of you calling Biden an old codger. I'm an old codger, and Biden is an SOB, and I don't mean sweet old boy.
Well, then, if I have offended you by calling you Biden an old codger, I am an old codger also. So I will link arms with you, sir, and we'll stand up against Biden. And he hung up. Well, sayonara there, buddy. You had your call. I was going to talk to you a little bit. Calls are welcome. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. When you call in to the program, why don't you give me a chance to visit with you a little bit, whether we're on the same page or not? It doesn't make any difference. It's called talk radio, not call and hang up radio. Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. The moderator, if you want to call her that last debate, and I mean this, I've got to be fair, I thought of the 2 debates, she absolutely was heads and shoulders better than Chris Wallace, but still kept interrupting President Trump. Much more so, and it was proven out by the interruptions that they kept track of, much more so than Joe Biden. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, good morning, Zeb. Nobody's mentioned this horrible, giggling woman that's running for vice president. If she isn't the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard, I just can't imagine somebody getting before the public and just giggling everything off.
I look at Kamala Harris, and you and I are on the same page here, Jerry. I don't trust her. I don't like her. And I think she would absolutely be the worst thing that happened to either the vice presidency or the presidency of this country. Are you? Yeah, I'm listening to you, Jerry. Go ahead.
Okay, well, I couldn't hear you at all.
I'm sorry.
I don't know what you said, Deb, so I'll get out of the way. I'm sorry I can't hear you to understand what you're saying.
Well, it's okay, Jerry. I was agreeing with you. The Kamala Harris, I don't know what's going on with this equipment, but I wish they'd start over. Kamala Harris, absolutely not one to be trusted, not one to be cared for or liked, because she's a very sinister and very evil person. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Let's get the weather on, because I'm telling you, when I signed on this morning, 16 degrees. However, it's going to change towards the end of the week, Gina said. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, absolutely sponsoring our weather, and they give you access to the best practices and technology for your hearing health. Please call the number at 312-0957. That number again, 312-0957, and let them help you. If you've noticed any diminishment in your hearing, call them today. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, 312-0957. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Chilly temperatures for today, but we will be warming up as we make our way through this week. Here's a look at your weather forecast. Sunny skies, a light breeze out of the west, right around 5 miles an hour. Looking at a high of 38. Tonight, mostly clear, below freezing temperatures, low of about 16. So you might have to scrape your windshield tomorrow morning. Tomorrow, looks like sunny skies, high of 47 with an overnight low of 21. By Wednesday, sunny skies, 55, 60 for Thursday, mid-60s for Friday. That's a look at your weather for Zebeth Duran.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, it's supposed to get a lot better towards the end of this week, and I certainly hope so. That's the weather brought to you by Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. And they know that hearing loss affects each person differently. And believe me, they've got all the technology and all the personalized treatment plans for you. Please make an appointment today at 312-0957, Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Please give me a call on the landline. I would love to visit with you for a few minutes. We are 8 days from today away from the election. And as I stated a few moments ago, over almost 60 million people have already voted early, before, really, even the last debate was finalized. And there are some new faces, I will say, here in Idaho. There are some new faces that are running for our Idaho House of Representatives. And a couple of them, which I'm going to be naming all my picks and choices next Tuesday on election morning, like it or not, I hope they win. I think some of the old guard, if you will, the elder statesmen, need to be replaced in certain instances. And we've got some younger, vibrant, maybe different thinking, but forward-thinking people that might take over their jobs. And we're going to discuss that next week on the program on Tuesday morning. Give us a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Have you noticed, though, about all the rallies? Have you noticed the thousands and thousands and thousands of people going to the Trump rallies? Have you noticed how they stand in line? Have you noticed how they've been so vocal and cheering and everything else? And then, over the weekend, I noticed in New York, I hope you saw this, it was called the Loud Majority. The Loud Majority in New York. And there were thousands of car and truck owners that organized this great big car and truck rally. And they were driving through all the different areas that were known as the blue areas, the Democratic areas in New York State. And they were having big rallies for Donald Trump. I mean, there's a lot of excitement out there for Donald Trump. And then you see these, what I think are totally fictitious polls that are showing Biden ahead 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 points, whatever, in the polling. And I scratch my head and I go, how can that be? How can that be? And then to show you how low, dirty, and absolutely destitute for any kind of common sense or civility the left is, there was a group organized for a rally yesterday in New York called Jews for Trump. And all of those people were confronted, and many of which were beaten up on the streets of New York. That's pathetic. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
You know, it's wonderful that we have the collegiate type voting in America. Because if they didn't, Idaho wouldn't even exist.
Well, Keith, I don't know about you, but I'm a little bit more than offended being called a flyover state, to the point where some of the so-called intellectuals of the Democratic Party have said that, well, we're just Trumpers and we deserve to be in flyover states because our opinion doesn't mean anything and they degrade us and they run us down, etc. I am doggone proud that I am going to stand up and say that I support Donald Trump for re-election for another 4 years. I certainly hope that the House turns over and is going to be retaken over by the Republicans. I certainly hope the Senate stays the same, and I hope that Donald Trump wins the Oval Office. There, I'm as blunt as I can be.
Well, Susan Collins doesn't even fit in. If she does win, is she a Republican? I don't know what she is.
Well, everybody has a right to their own opinion, and I'm not belittling that fact, but I think sometimes you take like Flake from Arizona, which is a good name for him, leaving the Republican Party, and you never know where Romney's going to stand. He's always going to stand on melting ice someplace. I mean, there's some in politics that are just nothing but two left shoes.
I don't understand America, the way we're acting. I mean, you and I seem to have good sense. I guess it's the rest of those nuts that are... Did I hear you snickering?
A little bit, not loudly, but a little bit, yes.
Well, anyway, it's true. Because they are nuts.
Well, I got to give credit to...
Hold a decent conversation with you without getting angry.
I got to give credit where credit is due. And I mean this, and I hope she's listening this morning. There is a lady that is a Democrat that writes an op-ed piece in the Times News every week. Her name is Linda Brugger. And I've got to give her a high integrity rating. You know why? She came out with a letter to the editor stating that she had made a mistake in regards to the HJR4 bill. She didn't study it. She didn't know what it was all about, and she partook of early voting and voted against it. And then she came out in this letter and said, I plan to study things more carefully in the future, and I made a mistake. Now, there is a Democrat, and there is a lady that I hold in high regard because she admitted she made a mistake.
Well, good for her, because there's not many of them. But I, for one, and I want you to put this down in your little notebook, that I don't want them to change these districts, because that is what you call a maneuver.
Yep. I am absolutely in favor of voting yes on HJR4. Keith, God bless you. I got to run. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Would you take just a moment and define that to our listeners? What?
HJR4, what it is? Okay, I'll tell you. It's basically, it's leaving the number of legislative districts at 35, and it's guaranteeing that our voices are going to be heard instead of making it 40 districts, 43 districts, whatever, and just absolutely opening it up and making it bigger. And it also preserves our rural representation that I'm very in favor of. So I say leave the districts alone at 35. And funny you should ask about that, because this Thursday, Speaker of the House Scott Betke is going to be on our program, and we're going to talk about all of this HJR4 at 10:30 on Thursday. I got to run, Keith. I'm really late. Thank you very much.
There's a version of packing the court.
I got to run. Thank you. I appreciate it. Right now, let's take a moment or so and talk about our good friends at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you. It is tire changing season, and boy, did you see Denver yesterday? They had snow on the ground, and you know it's coming here. Absolutely. You'd better be ready for all the slick and the wet and the muck and the snow and everything else. Well, they've got all the tires for all the vehicles, all the tread designs at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. You be sure and stop in and see them today. Great point, too, that you need to go in and have your brakes checked, front end alignment, shocks and struts, and batteries. Man, I'll bet you a lot of you folks out there this morning, when you turned the key, it went click, 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 click. Make sure that you've got a really good, strong battery, and they've got a bunch of them at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. James and Buell, Dan on Poline and Twin, Lane and Rupert, Mike and Jerome, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin Falls, the Twist family in Paul, and my buddy Trent on Overland in Burley. The best, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Holy moly, we've got to head for the news for about 7 minutes. We're going to come back next hour with my dear friend Rick Manning and also Frosty Woolridge. Don't go away. Zeb at the Ranch. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Good morning on a Monday, October 26th, 8 days away from Election Day. Go vote. Want to remind you about our great big major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you with the best of tires and, of course, the best in service. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. And also Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Right now, let's have this good word for Western Waste.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this free land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal.
Western Waste Services, it's true, they are always at your disposal. Whether you need to get on the route service, once a week they'll come by and get your garbage. It's gone, it's out of there. Or maybe you need a dumpster to clean out the basement, or maybe the attic, or whatever. They'll deliver it, you fill it up, they'll come and get it. Western Waste Services, always at your disposal, 734-6969. You call those really good people today. Want to remind you, too, don't forget, go vote. We, the people, have the civic obligation to choose our leadership. Be sure and vote for the candidate of your choice on November 3rd. This message paid by the Re-elect District 27 Representative, Fred Wood Committee, Steve Westfall, Treasurer. And a good word for some folks that always do a phenomenal job of working with families in a very trying time, and that's when there's the passing of a loved one. Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert, with Joel Heward, his family, and his staff serving you. The number to remember, the number to keep close by the phone, 436-5636. That number again? 436-5636, as they always provide the families they serve with the best possible support and comfort, and with the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. Don't forget, Hanson Mortuary in Rupert, that number again, 436-5636, and Joel Heward also serving you and your family at Morrison Payne Funeral Home on East Main in Burley. One more quick note. I know he's chomping on the bit, and I can't wait to get him on the program. Rick Manning standing by, but I want to also remind you about Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. Pardon me. They're located at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, and they can help all of us that are recouping from surgery or an accident. They've got the most highly trained physical therapists waiting to serve you and get you back into being you. Call for an appointment today at 678-1191. Located at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. Well, I'll tell you what, I look forward to Mondays. I really do look forward to Mondays, because we have this gentleman on, the president of Americans for Limited Government. He tells it like it is. Rick Manning, good morning to you, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well. I look forward to Mondays too. It seems strange, but getting the opportunity. I love doing the radio shows, and being able to be on with you and your listeners is a real treat. It sure beats the heck out of the other people in the swamp, I'll tell you that. So it's good. I love it.
Rick, let me ask you, what did you think, with your great opinion and being able to dissect what was said and what wasn't said, what did you think of the debate last week with Biden and Trump? I'm going to say up front, I thought that President Trump absolutely was at his best and heads and shoulders above Biden. What are your thoughts?
I think that what President Trump did is he was the President of the United States in the debate. He was the commander-in-chief. He was the guy who had the information, who knew the facts, and was able to press Joe on the facts. And that's really, really important. People needed to see the President of the United States looking like the president. And that was what hurt him in the first debate, is he didn't look like the president. In this one, he was in control. He was in command of the facts, and I think that because of that, the difference of between the two men was pretty clear. Trump was powerful and commanding, whereas former Vice President Biden was really kind of shy. He almost looked like he was shrinking during the debate in terms of his own stature, and so I thought it was great from that perspective. I didn't call it a knockout. I think Trump won in 10-round fight. He won 8 rounds to 2. And I think some of the rounds he won 10-8, to use boxing analogy. But I don't think there was a knockout per se. I think the single most important thing was, after the fact, people noting how Biden seemed to be struggling the longer the debate went along. And the fact that he got his last 2 questions, he had pre-canned responses, helped him out a great deal. Anybody who doesn't believe that he got the question about environmental justice question, that was planted and that he knew it in advance, doesn't realize. You have to just look at his answer there versus other answers. That answer he had that answer memorized. Similarly, he knew exactly what to say at the end. But bottom line for this, Donald Trump showed America what a president looks like, and Joe Biden showed America what a president doesn't look like. And I think that's why Donald Trump won the debate overwhelmingly, and it's why people who are undecided are flipping towards the president rapidly in terms of the polls.
Okay, but there's a caveat there I want you to discuss. Never before in Americans' history, I believe I'm right on this, correct me if I'm wrong, have over almost 60 million people early voted like they have now. And I would surmise that there are many of that 60 million that saw that debate and went, maybe I made a mistake in my voting. I've even got letters to the editor to our own paper here in Magic Valley of statements that were such. We made a mistake. We should have waited. We should have paid more attention. Do you think that is really going to be a big number on the early voting?
I think it'll have some effect, but first of all, early voting is a mistake for that exact reason, and it's a huge mistake for that exact reason. But having said that, I think a vast majority, and by vast I mean 95% of the people, maybe even 99% of the people who voted, they were going to vote the way they were going to vote, no matter what happened. It didn't have any effect on them whatsoever. I would believe that probably the revelations about Hunter Biden, people finding that out, and some of the stuff regarding Joe Biden's character as it related to basically doing what everybody in D.C. knows, but basically filling his pockets with as much money as he can from foreign powers. Of course, he stated he did his Monica Lewinsky line. I did not take money from any foreign government. It was exactly the cadence of Bill Clinton's. I did not have sex with that woman or sexual relations with that woman. And it reminded me of it so much because it was a lie. It was a straight lie. And it was a lie based on one thing. It was a lie based on the idea that he didn't take money from them. He took money from Hunter, who took money from them. Because, it's like the head of the mafia saying, well, I didn't shake anybody down. But, the gangsters on the street are shaking everybody down. They're just getting the money from it.
Mm-hmm.
So he just lied.
Let me ask.
In terms of the question, the vote, there will be some who regret doing that. It's a mistake to have early voting for that exact reason. But I think a vast, vast, vast majority of people were going to vote for whoever they voted for, regardless of what happens between now and Election Day. They're the votes that are already baked into the cake.
I was sitting there, and I was taking notes on every single thing that was done and or said during that debate. And when Joe Biden came out, when Donald Trump caught him, and said, Joe, you said that you would eliminate fracking, and Joe, you said that you would stop the usage of fossil fuels. And Biden came back and said demandingly, no, I did not. I have, and I'm kind of a keep everything freak, I've got files and files and files, and in those files I found this morning over 7 stories validated by various news sources about when Joe Biden said he would stop fracking, or when he would stop the use of fossil fuels in this country. How is it that he got away with it? I think he got away with it because the moderator wouldn't let Trump pin him down.
I don't think he's getting away with it because Trump's pounding the heck out of him in states where it matters. Okay, let's just be clear. The campaign's job is to deliver that message and deliver it to the people who care about it, and that's why you're seeing the numbers flip on Biden in some of those states. Even the media polls that are designed to have Biden winning to discourage the rest of us, the Biden numbers collapsing in those polls because of the fact that he said it. The campaign then drills it to the people who actually care about that, and they're going to vote based on that, and it changes their vote. And so while it would have been good to see him floundering on the floor, bleeding from getting gutted by the president, at some level, the president was protected from himself because he wants to do that. And it's one of the things people who like him really like him about him, but people don't like him about him because they think he's a bully. And he would have bullied Biden on that unmercifully. But I will tell you one that I think is where Trump just crushed him. And that was when Biden tried to talk about children in cages.
Yes.
And the president went and just said, who built the cages, Joe? He kept asking him, who built the cages, Joe? And Biden finally just dropped his head in defeat because he knew they were culpable. And the Trump campaign today, when they had a rally in Wisconsin, and they have Wi-Fi information on the rally that they give out to the press. And they made the press punch in terms of the password, who built the cages, Joe, with a question mark. Okay? So they made every single person in the press who was following their campaign, following the rally, to punch in that information because they know that is the cuts Joe's throat in terms of the moral indignation about the border. And it allows this president to talk about how this isn't happening now, how the border security has been is better than it's ever been, how the numbers have been cut in half in terms of the number of illegal crossings, how the people who are in detention there's 1/20th of the number of people in detention at the border right now than there was a year ago. And it's because the border systems have been put in place. It's because we're keeping people in Mexico, and it's because we're processing them rapidly. And the 500 kids they keep wanting to talk about who've been separated from the families, I think everybody in this listening audience is smart enough to know this, but when they got separated from the coyotes who were bringing them across, guess what? Those coyotes who were bringing them across were not furry, four-legged animals. They were human traffickers who were taking those kids, and who knows if those kids were going to end up being exploited and put into slavery, put into the sex trade. That's what those coyotes do with unaccompanied children.
That's right.
And I was on the radio this morning with Mark Morgan, who's the head of the Border Patrol, and you talked about just this week, a 4-year-old kid was dropped off by coyotes this side of the border, shivering, cold, and not knowing what to do, not to be, basically just stuck there. 4-year-old kid being abandoned. Talks about 6 and 7-year-old kids who were left on a peninsula in the middle of the Rio Grande River that had to be saved because they were going to die there. And that's what our Border Patrol does. And because of the border system, we now have more knowledge about what's happening along the border. And so we see these things through our cameras and through other surveillance that goes part of the wall. And so we're able to save those lives. And that's what Joe Biden's against. Joe Biden's against us having the kind of border security that allows us to save lives from the abusers, the human traffickers who are bringing kids and bringing adults across the border, and they don't care about these people. These people are nothing but cargo. And when it becomes inconvenient, they dump them. It doesn't matter if it's in the middle of the desert in 100-degree heat. It doesn't matter if they have water. They don't care because they've been paid already. That's what the border fight is about. It's about, you want to talk about moral issues? It's immoral what Joe Biden wants to do on the border, which is to reopen it up and allow human traffickers to re-engage coming across this border with people and engage in essentially slave trade across our borders. It's immoral what he wants to do, and President Trump's system he's come up with, he figured out. In the middle of a crisis, he figured out how to deal with it. That's what we need, along with more money into ICE, more money into Border Patrol, finish the wall, and let's get the electronic surveillance across the border in a way that we can have a border that's not airtight, but is significantly more tight, and it sends a message that don't engage in the unsafe activity of illegally entering our country. We have a process. Go through the process, and we will welcome you if you go through the process and you're accepted. That's what we're trying to do. Legal immigration makes sense. Illegal immigration is bad for the illegal immigrant, and it's bad for America. And that's what President Trump's stopping, and that's what Joe Biden wants to reestablish. So don't give me this, Trump put kids in cages junk, because it's false. And it's the president who's kept kids out of cages because they stopped them from getting to America.
Absolutely. So well stated. Rick, in the 7 minutes...
I got a little worked up there. Sorry.
No. Please don't apologize. In about the 5 minutes, 6 minutes I have left, I want you to kind of unwrap this package of the Biden story with the computer and the ties with money laundering and China and Big Daddy Joe, better known as the big guy. Is this thing going to tread water or is it going to sink? What's going to happen to that story?
That's a great question. It's so late in the campaign season that I think a lot of people are dismissing it, and the mainstream, the establishment media, I've got to stop calling mainstream media. The established media is spiking it every chance they can, meaning they're making it so people don't find out about it. I will tell you the guts of that story. All the horrific things that Hunter Biden seems as though he did in China, which the Chinese are now, they've got video of Hunter Biden abusing Chinese girls that are playing on China television. It's just appalling what they've got playing on Chinese television involving Hunter Biden. I don't know that none of that actually matters in the election because nobody's voting for Hunter Biden. And I'm just reminded by what my wife tells me. She goes, Rick, the only thing that matters about this is that Joe Biden's a crook. It doesn't matter that Hunter Biden's a drug-addled, masochist. That doesn't matter because nobody's voting for you. And in fact, some people feel sorry for Joe Biden because his son is such a crummy person. What matters is that Joe Biden was taking money, apparently was taking money. It's been confirmed by an individual who was Hunter Biden's business partner and by the Hunter Biden emails that Joe Biden was getting a cut off of the money that Hunter Biden was extorting out of these people, out of these foreign governments. That's what matters because what that means is Joe Biden is compromised. Joe Biden can't be president of the United States because he's on the take to foreign governments through his son. And that's the takeaway on it. And I would avoid, just politically, if I were the Trump campaign, I would avoid all the salacious stuff, and I'd focus on the fact that Joe Biden's compromised, and while he's plays that he's got good character. Truth is, his character is fatally flawed because he's lined his pockets with foreign cash through his son.
One more question and limited time. Tonight is a very big, historic night with the vote for Amy Coney Barrett. Your thoughts quickly, because the Democrats will not show up.
Well, if they don't show up, that's fine. I think that the voters should make it so they permanently don't show up. Amy Coney Barrett is extraordinarily qualified. She's probably the most qualified jurist that they've chosen and will be confirming in quite a while. She is well spoken, and quite honestly, I don't know how she'll vote on anything. And I don't know why the Democrats are so upset that a jurist has been going on the court that conservatives can't tell you how she's going to vote. It's now, they make an assumption that on the left, when they pick somebody, they know exactly how they're going to vote, and those people and their justices never deviate. Republicans don't do that. They rely on these people to actually engage in real constitutional discourse and trying to figure it out and not be partisan. Amy Coney Barrett will not be partisan, but it's important she's on the court because we have to have 9, given that there's a reasonable likelihood that the Supreme Court is going to be making some critical decisions related to this national election.
I tell you what, Rick, time goes way too fast. Real quick thought, 1 week from tomorrow, Election Day. Your thoughts about Election Day and Donald Trump versus Joe Biden and or Kamala Harris. What do you think's going to happen?
Donald Trump's going to win, but it's going to take a couple weeks to get there. But Donald Trump's going to win. But there's one thing that everybody who's listening has to do. And I don't care if you're voting for Trump or you're voting for Biden on this. I hope you're voting for Trump. But go to other states, get your neighbors in your state and your localities to make sure they're voting. Your friends, the people who you know are like-minded, not just here but around the country, because it is important that people get affirmation about the importance of going out to vote in every jurisdiction. And so take your list, anybody you know, and reach out to them and urge them to vote. It really, really matters, because if we don't get the Trump vote out, then Biden will win. So the key to this is, with so many votes already cast, we have to make certain that the Trump voters who have not voted already are doing so, that they're voting, particularly since the polling places are very much, they've limited the number of polling places so much that there are extraordinarily long lines, and it's meant directly to hurt Trump supporters who are going to vote on Election Day. So urge people to get out and make sure they know how important it is.
Wow, time goes too fast. President for Americans for Limited Government, dear friend of this program, Rick Manning. God bless you, my friend. Take care, and I'll look forward to next Monday. Thank you very, very much.
Next Monday, I'll know more about the election next Monday. So I look forward to it, Zab, and everybody out there, just keep praying for the country.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Rick. Really enjoy having him on the air. He's a straight shooter, always has been. Rick Manning, thank you very much. Wow, we got to pay some bills. By the way, don't forget, go vote November 3rd and vote yes for Amendment HJR 4 and leave the number of legislative districts at 35, guaranteeing that our voices will be heard on all issues and also preserving rural representation. Paid for by Speaker of the House Representative Scott Bedke, District 27, Sarah Bedke, Treasurer. Want to also give you a shout out about our dear friends at Denny's Restaurant. Thomas, Michelle, the whole crew, serving you with great, great eating. Oh, I mean, whether it's breakfast, lunch, and dinner, maybe in the afternoon for a special dessert, whatever the case might be, stop in and enjoy. They're located at 611 North Overland in Burley, and another location at 291 Pole Line Road in Twin Falls. Remember, really great menu choices, super people serving you at America's Diner. Denny's Restaurant, 611 North Overland in Burley. Really good folks.
Have a good week.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you. Super guy right there, Rick. I thought he was off the line. I'm sorry. I thought I'd ended the call, but I guess I hadn't. Thank you, Rick. Appreciate you. Don't forget, too, as we draw closer to the cooler temperatures staying with us, there's still plenty of time to get outside on your four-wheeler or your side-by-side. But if you're making plans for all that angel dandruff to hit the ground, don't forget, of course, all the snow machines, all the snowmobiles over at Let's Ride, 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, Saturdays, 9 to 2. And they've got all the snowmobiles. They've got all the accessories. What are you waiting for? Get over there and see them today. Let's Ride, 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. It's really true. This is where the fun is sold. Absolutely. One more quick good word, and I want to remind everybody, these folks are so helpful, and that's Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Oh, my goodness, all the life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits, all of this and more, by people that are really responsive to your needs and dedicated to service. Great service to you, your family, and your business. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Number to call, make an appointment, 436-4424. That number again, 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance. And one more quick note, and it's all about our friends Curtis and Lorena over at Patterson's Electronics. Holy smokes, these folks have everything for electronic needs, whether it's the cables, the power cords, the home theater systems, the video surveillance cameras, complete sound systems, all your television sets. I mean, and then to top it all off, they've even added dehydrated food in stock for you. A lot of people are really interested in that, and they've got a special for you, so you check it out today. Stop into Patterson's Electronics, 421 East Main in Burley. They're open Monday through Saturday, 9 to 6, and the number to call, 678-6997, Patterson's Electronics. Right now, let's go to the phone line, and it's time for my friend and your friend, and that's, of course, Frosty Woldridge. Good morning, my old buddy. How are you?
Well, good morning from Golden, Colorado, each and every one. I hope that you're enjoying this coming of winter, and certainly just the snow that's falling. It's taking the fires out down here in Colorado, which is a big relief. And it's always a pleasure to be with you, and may we all prosper here in this coming week.
You are living back in, I think, some of the first snow country in the United States. How much snow did you get over the weekend?
Some of the places have gotten 12 inches. We've gotten 6 inches right here. Of course, I'm at 8,000 feet. And so, yeah, the high country is catching a lot of snow, but even Denver got about 4 to 5 inches. And it's falling all over the state right now, and especially the relief from the fires. You know, we saved Glen Haven, Estes Park, which is the eastern end of the Rocky Mountain National Park, was spared the fires. So we're pretty thankful. And we're very thankful for the new snow coming down to kind of squash these fires out of existence and give us a break from the massive fires that have, I think, burned something in excess of 200,000 acres here in Colorado, which is a big chunk of change.
Wow. You know, Frosty, every week I compliment you on your excellent writing. And your latest piece, Joe Biden's Promise, I will work for amnesty for all undocumented immigrants. And it's an excellent piece, and this guy, Joe Biden, and Kamala Harris, they scare me. I am very nervous 8 days ahead of this election because with all the early voting, of which I am not in favor of, almost 60 million people have already voted, and then next Tuesday, Election Day, I am getting really nervous that the Democrats and those two yahoos, Biden and Harris, may take over this country.
I would be very concerned myself. I hope you all might read this piece. It's my latest piece. It's newswithviews.com. And one of the crises is that we have a man who's 80 years old, essentially. He's an octogenarian, and he's quite frail. He has onset dementia. And the only reason he was elected as the candidate for the Democrats was because of name recognition. It wasn't because of qualifications, because in 47 years, this career corrupt politician has done more to undermine the integrity of the United States and certainly the Senate and all of his activities, certainly his son, Hunter Biden, procuring a job as a board member to a Ukrainian oil company for, I think the minimum of estimate was $50,000 a month. It shows you the kind of power, essentially quid pro quo power, that a man like Joe Biden wielded as a vice president to get his son and other persons that literally had no qualifications to enjoy such a unbelievable financial windfall. And that's the kind of man he is, and he's been that way. I mean, he was celebrating the KKK Klan member Robert Byrd from, I think, West Virginia, 30 years ago. And then all of a sudden he's telling us, well, you need to vote for me because I'm such a wonderful multicultural diversity proponent, when in fact he has stated he didn't want his children being educated in the jungles of the inner city that was propagated essentially by African Americans. So the man is a continuing liar. He's a continuing dishonest person, and he could take over the United States of America. And what I wanted everyone to know in this column is that most people have been fed the government lie that there's only 11 million illegal aliens in this country. The Yale report that came out in October of 2018, and I did all the research on that, Zeb, was that we have between 23 and 25 million of them. And if they get an automatic amnesty, and this man could very well move that into that, we're looking at 23 to 25 million foreigners who violated our borders, who work illegally, who send over $120 billion a year out of our country back to their own countries and their own families. They're going to be able to tap into America's welfare, our food stamps, the EBT program, the medical care, of which 300,000 of them do every year with their anchor babies, the educational systems, of course, which we continue to pay for, $8,000 to $10,000 per illegal alien child, plus $2,000 a year for English as a second language, which they never learn anyway because they stay in their own enclaves and they're just creating their own little societies. But also they get the free breakfasts and lunches, which you and I pay for. So what he would do, essentially, Zeb, is reward lawlessness with extraordinary benefits paid for by your tax dollars. And I really cover that in here because most Americans don't understand, and I know that you interview a lot of other top people, certainly journalists that know what's going on. But again, if we allowed what Reagan did in 1986 when he provided 3.4 million illegals with a free pass, what the heck's going to happen when we give another pass to 23 to 25 million of them? You're going to see a massive assault on our borders because he has promised, Biden has promised, to tear down the wall. And that means he's going to tear it down from San Diego, and there's about 400 miles of it, so that literally anyone can jump across this border, bring in the fentanyl and the drugs, bring in all of the different diseases that they're bringing in, and this will be a continuation of really lax borders and a complete lack of law and order, and all of us are going to pay for it. And then at the end of this article, I really bring about one of the things that really is very concerning to me, and that Biden said that he promises to put Muslims into as many levels as possible in my administration, unquote. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know about you, but I've read the Quran. It's the most violent book on the planet. It absolutely mandates violence against anyone who does not believe in Islam. And he wants to bring in people right into the White House to instigate more Sharia law. And that should frighten everybody that Joe Biden would like to see Sharia law brought into our country, because that's what the Quran mandates by its followers. And if they get into positions of power, they will do just that. And it's already being de facto practiced right there in Detroit, Michigan, certainly in Fremont, California, certainly in obviously Minneapolis, where there's 125,000 of them, all of them on welfare. So you could see, and you will see, a massive onslaught of our country if Biden gets into office.
You quoted Biden, and five words scared me to death when I read that in your article. When Joe Biden said, "We owe it to them." And I was so mad and so incensed that I slammed my fist down and said, why do we owe illegals that have broken into this country illegally? Why do we owe them anything when he puts out the phrase, "we owe it to them"? Why? And how should we pay this when we're almost broke ourselves?
Well, we are more than broke right now, Zeb. Please understand, fellow American citizens, I'm an all-American boy. That's what I am, all-American. I mean, you don't get more all-American than me. And I know each one of you is all-American the same way. We love our country. We love the Constitution. We love the rule of law. We love our neighbors. And to think that Joe Biden is telling us that we owe them, criminals who can be deported at any time, anything, is beyond my understanding of why that man thinks he can run this country, thinks that he is an American who's going to stand up for American values, American laws, the U.S. Constitution. I'm sorry. Joe Biden is not only incompetent, he is absolutely going to be completely unable to lead this country. And I bet this. You're not voting for Joe Biden. You're voting for Kamala Harris, because Joe Biden, within 3 months, at the most 6 months, will be so worn out by the office of the presidency, he won't be able to go down to his basement and take a nap. He's simply just going to be so exhausted that they'll put him into an assisted living home and let Kamala Harris take over. And I think the 25th Amendment is the one that they will do that with. So we're in a lot of trouble if Joe Biden gets into the White House, along with all the Muslims, and then bringing in all the illegal aliens as his sidebar. I tell you what, yes, Joe Biden said that. We owe it to them. And no, we don't owe it to them.
You know, Frosty, I sit here every day on this program and try to deal only in facts, and I pride myself on making sure that all the stories I carry on my program are verified and there are no loopholes. But yet you have Joe Biden continually lie about his different assessment on various issues, same for Kamala Harris, and yet they still lead in the polls, and Joe is still in the basement. I mean, there's something really fishy going on here. In all my 73 years, I've never seen a campaign like this.
Well, in all of my 73 years, I haven't seen a campaign like this myself, because it's complete obfuscation of the facts. You see a man who's been in if Joe Biden was so effective, why hasn't he done anything to solve all the problems of this country in 47 years? He has been in office 47 years, and yet he's telling us that he's going to fix everything? Well, the reality is he didn't fix anything in those 47 years. He did a lot of skullduggery and dishonest and unlawful activities, and yet he sits there in front of the cameras and tells you point blank that he's honest and he has all this integrity. And the fact is, if you look at the facts and you go into what he has really done, he's actually accomplished almost nothing in his 47 years in public office, except he does own, I understand, 4 different homes at a value of over $5 million. And how is it that somebody that has done pretty much nothing except be on the government paycheck get to own 4 homes over $5 million in worth? I would really like to find out how that all comes down on the side of integrity and honesty. Am I wrong here? I mean, I'm asking the question, how does somebody get to do that when they don't and haven't built a business, they haven't contributed to America in any way, and 47 years of do nothing, and he wants to be the President of the United States? At this late age, he will be an octogenarian. He'll be 80 years old in a heartbeat, and yet he thinks he's going to lead this country out of the morass that he created, because he's the one that didn't uphold our borders after 1986. He's the one who literally was part and parcel of our I think it's a $27 trillion debt right now. He voted for all of these wars that we're in, 19 years over there in Afghanistan and Iraq, and having accomplished absolutely nothing except put us $6 trillion in debt. I mean, how does anybody with a rational mind vote for a person like that, who's absolutely done nothing but screw this country over, cheat and lie, and then pretends to be a man of integrity? I am absolutely astounded beyond all understanding.
Well, and then tie in quickly, I've only got about 3 minutes left, but make it real short and sweet, tie in his son, Hunter Biden, that was discharged dishonorably from the military, a drug addict, a known ne'er-do-well, and yet he ends up being a multimillionaire and helping supply money to the big guy.
That's correct. Hunter Biden is, I wouldn't sit down to the table to eat with this guy. He stinks so badly of dishonesty, and he's a drug addict. He's absolutely a wasted human being, and yet he got paid. Again, the lowest amount that I understand from my research is $50,000 a month. That's every 30 days for sitting on a Ukrainian oil board that his father used his vice presidential power to get his son. But not only that, I think there's several other family members in the same board. Nancy Pelosi has got her family members in that. And again, as you all know, she is worth $124 million. How do you get to have that kind of money when you're serving this country and supposedly honest and full of integrity? And I think Steve Croft on 60 Minutes caught her in a big lie. And we all know Nancy, she's as corrupt as the rest of them, and yet they still sit there in the realm of power, and that's why, God help us, but we need term limits to get these corrupt career politicians out of the Congress of the United States.
Amen. Say it again, congregation. Amen. Frosty Woldridge, Golden, Colorado, my dear, dear friend. Go out and make a snowman. Have a good day, and we'll look forward to next Monday. Thanks, Frost.
Okay, and thank you, Zeb.
All right, buddy.
All my friends here.
I tell you what, I really appreciate him on my program. Frosty Woldridge tells it like it is. So does Clark Kaufman, asking for your vote. Re-elect him as Idaho State Representative, District Seat 25B. Even more, Clark wants you to get out and exercise your right to vote. Clark Kaufman has served Idaho very well since 2012, serving you, serving all of Idaho. In order to logically keep our voices heard, Clark encourages you to vote yes on the constitutional amendment, changing the language to simply require the legislature to consist of 35 districts. Let's all do our part. Get out and vote. Paid for by the committee to re-elect Clark Kaufman for House 25B, Debbie Kaufman, Treasurer. Right now, it's time for the weather, and the weather is brought to you this hour by our friends at Phillips Oaks Goodwin Crane and Company. And believe me, they've been providing accounting services to the Mini-Cache area for well over 50 years. They are the professionals. They are the people that can really help you with the best of tax return preparation, tax planning, business consulting, bookkeeping services, retirement planning, all of this and more. With offices in Burley and Rupert, the professionals, Phillips Oaks Goodwin Crane and Company. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Chilly temperatures for today, but we will be warming up as we make our way through this week. Here's a look at your weather forecast. Sunny skies, a light breeze out of the west, right around 5 miles an hour. Looking at a high of 38. Tonight, mostly clear, below freezing temperatures, low of about 16. So you might have to scrape your windshield tomorrow morning. Tomorrow, looks like sunny skies, high of 47 with an overnight low of 21. By Wednesday, sunny skies, 55, 60 for Thursday, mid-60s for Friday. That's a look at your weather for Zeb at the Rain.
Thank you, Gina. And the weather brought to you by Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. As I said, they have offices in Burley and Rupert, and they really are the professionals serving you, your family, and your business. Get a hold of them today. Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. Wow, I know this morning it was doggone chilly. What did I have, about 12 or 11 degrees? One of the two. I can't remember when I got up at 4 o'clock. Went outside to feed, and let me tell you something. For a guy on crutches, I stepped rather gingerly. It was crisp out there this morning. By the by, don't forget, go vote November 3rd and vote yes for Amendment HJR 4 and leave the number of legislative districts at 35, guaranteeing that our voices will all be heard on all issues and also preserving rural representation. I bit my tongue. Paid for by Speaker of the House Representatives Scott Bedke, District 27, Sarah Bedke, Treasurer. I've got time for a call or two, so give me a jingle. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call. Love to talk to you. I noticed that there is a little bit of friction going on in the Democratic Party, and I'll tell you a little bit about what's going on with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and, of all people, the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the world's probably most famous bartender, doesn't know, underline those two words, doesn't know if she'll support Nancy if she does win a new term as Speaker of the House. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said she'll only support the most progressive candidate for House Speaker. Trouble in River City. All that glitters is not gold. And Nancy Pelosi and AOC have had their words before, and looks like they're having other words this morning. By the way, too, I got to tell you this, and I salute these people that did it. I have not been in favor of Black Lives Matter. I criticize and condemn them for what they are, a Marxist communist organization that I absolutely think should be run out of Dodge City. Well, at midnight on Saturday night, I believe this happened, someone or a group of someones went in front of the Trump Tower. Remember BLM, kind of a in-your-face type attitude with even the mayor, Bill de Blasio. They went out and painted right in front of Trump Tower, Black Lives Matter. Well, someone at midnight the other night in New York City went out and dumped tar all over the street, over the Black Lives Matter logo. I think it's fantastic. And Bill de Blasio, the mayor, and others are searching for the individuals that did this so they can be reprimanded. Well, I think it's great. Initially, Black Lives Matter defacing the street with their insignia, Black Lives Matter, right in front of the Trump Tower. And I think it's great that someone took the time and the effort and covered it up with black tar in New York on Saturday night. Amen. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. November 3rd, District 24A needs Paul Thompson in the Idaho House. Paul knows we need values established by God, fiscal responsibility, and all life matters. The right to protect ourselves and guaranteed freedom to worship and speak. A strong state education system and patients are in charge, not politicians. And above all, our Constitution is never second to anyone. Vote Paul Thompson, District 24A, paid for by Paul Thompson for Idaho, Issy Gibbs, Treasurer. All right, like I said, give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I'd like to hear what your thoughts are. 60 million people. Honestly, I was just shocked about that. 60 million people have early voted And I'm glad to hear that my dear friend Rick Manning said, too, he's not in favor of it. I think it's atrocious that we have watered down the system. I don't like it. Nobody's going to change my mind. And I think we've made voting way too easy, like getting on a carnival ride. And 60 million people. And Election Day still 8 days away. Go to your polling place. Vote. Do not stay home. Do not complain if you do stay home. But please, next Tuesday, November 3rd, please go vote. Snow and cold, Denver, Colorado, like we mentioned to Frosty just a few moments ago. Holy moly, it was cold, and they were playing football in the snow. I was scattering through the channels yesterday, saw the Kansas City Chiefs and the Denver Broncos. Will not watch the game because, quite frankly, I don't believe in what their attitude is about Black Lives Matter and other things, but I did notice that they were playing in the snow in Denver yesterday, and that cold front and that snow front all the way down into the state of Texas. What have we got coming up next hour? Well, I will tell you. We've got one of my favorite guests coming on, John O'Connor. And John is quite the guy. He understands what's going on politically, let me tell you. He is the author of the book Postgate, How the Washington Post Betrayed Deep Throat, Covered Up Watergate, and Began Today's Partisan Advocacy Journalism. He served as an assistant U.S. attorney in Northern California, and he's going to be talking about Amy Coney Barrett this next hour. Then at 10:30 this morning, Dog Days with Deb Hines, and then a real short segment, but very important. At 10:46, we're going to have Joe Larson, Cache County Clerk, on talking about voting, early voting, etc. Don't miss it. We'll be back in about 7 minutes. Don't go away. Well, good morning, sunshine, blue skies, cold outside. Zebeth Ranch with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley, Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations, serving you with the best of tires and the greatest of service. And also Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Want to also remind you about my friends with 7K Metals. You know, we have really created our own security bank, and you can help yourself build your own financial security and future through silver purchases. And, of course, call the folks with 7K Metals. They will tell you all about it. Lon Hardy at 312-8699 or Sharon at 430-3259. Please call, ask them about it, tell them I told you to call, and they'll share with you all about a great saving opportunity for you and a valued treasure for your loved ones in the future. 7K Metals and silver purchases. You check it out and give them a call today. 7K Metals. Want to also give you a great big shout out before we go to our guest about Lee's Furniture, Floors, and more. No money down, no interest up to 48 months on approved credit. Holy moly! Great big harvest sale. 40% off. I said 40% off. Sound like Foghorn Leghorn. 40% off all furniture, mattresses, dining room sets, motion furniture, everything. And then listen to this, even more savings with the Simmons Beauty Rest mattresses, 50% off. Whoa! Get in the car, Martha. Here we go to 459 Overland in Burley. Lee's Furniture, Floors, and more. You stop in and see those good folks today. One of my favorite guests to have on this program is a former U.S. district, I should say an assistant U.S. attorney in Northern California, and author of the book called Postgate, How the Washington Post Betrayed Deep Throat, Covered Up Watergate, and Began Today's Partisan Advocacy Journalism. That's quite a title. Here's one of my favorite people, John O'Connor. John, good morning to you.
Well, I hope it's a good title because it's a good book, but but who knows?
You know, John, I'm so glad you're on the program this morning, and I want to talk to you about one of your information sheets was talking about the confirmation of Amy Coney Barrett, and that vote's going to take place tonight, and the Democrats, of course, are going to be off hiding in the bushes someplace. Give us your thoughts about this Supreme Court justice.
Well, of course, she's great. She's really an antonym of Scalia. She's an originalist and a textualist, which means that she actually is going to interpret the Constitution the way it's written. Now, that doesn't mean it can't be updated. You didn't search people in 1789 with using electronic bugs, so you update that and so forth. But basically, she gives the Constitution its original meaning, and that's what's important about it. So she is wonderful. She'll get confirmed. And what's happening is now is the Democrats are playing possum. They, of course, are making it look like it's a sham of some kind. They're starting to talk about packing the court, and as if this were packing. It's not packing. It's called appointing vacancies. But what they're doing is they're simply getting ready to pack the court should they win the election. And so this is a short-lived victory for those who like the Constitution interpreted as it's supposed to be interpreted. They'll put, who knows how many people they'll put on there.
John,
I bet 5 or 6.
John, explain to me, if you would, and to my audience. Let's give the outlandish scenario and the, oh, please don't let it happen scenario of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris winning the presidency and the vice presidency. What takes place? What do they do? How do they implement a perhaps packing of the Supreme Court?
Well, first of all, if Biden wins, he will probably bring with him the Senate. And there are a lot of vulnerable Republican senators in very close elections. Cory Booker stands out as one in Colorado, Martha McSally in Arizona, so forth and so on. So if they get the Senate, they already have the House. What they'll do is they'll simply vote, we hereby appoint 6 new justices, 6 new slots to the Supreme Court, and they slam the gavel down and pass the law. They also get rid of the filibuster rule. Up until now, you've had a filibuster rule that applies to just about everything. I think when the Democrats last held power, I think they got rid of the filibuster rule for judges, for at least the appointment of judges, the vote on judges. But now they'll get rid of it for everything, which means that the Republicans would be completely powerless to do anything, stop anything. And so what we'll have is we'll have a country that will be really run in a very progressive, if you want to call it that, progressive style. Anything will happen. I suspect there will be Medicare for all. I think we're all going to lose our private health insurance. There are 160 million people on private health insurance. That they are going to lose their insurance. And that's one of the things that probably Trump has not been articulate enough about. That when he says 160 million people are going to lose their insurance, and the other side says, that's baloney, they won't lose it. But what he means is 160 million people will lose the insurance they've got that they like, that comes from their employers. We all I love my insurance. And but we're all going to lose it. And then what happens is there won't be enough money for everybody to be covered well, so we'll all be standing in line. We'll have to wait, 2 months to get some routine something or other done, and we're going to have to pick and choose. They probably will be. We won't call them death panels, but not everybody's going to get the treatment they need to get. So it's going to be a bad deal. You name the area. It doesn't have to be health care. It can be any area. Taxes are going to go up. It's going to be pretty much absurd.
Okay, John, with that scenario, what do you think's going to happen next Tuesday, November 3rd? Are you as worried about the election as I am, or do you think it still could be a big slam dunk for President Trump?
I am very worried, and one of the reasons I'm worried is that I believe there are several million ballots out there that were sent out where there was nobody home. Well, they were sent out to addresses that just where the person no longer lives there. Those things are being harvested. I think people are getting $8 to $10 for each ballot they harvest. There are some people out there very enterprisingly making a lot of money harvesting ballots. And guess what? All those people are going to vote. It's going to be hell to unravel it when we find out that Joe Schmo, who lived in Kokomo and got his ballot mailed there, now lives in Dayton, Ohio. He's going to vote twice. But how easy is it to figure that one out? It's not going to be easy, and we don't have 2 years to decide who the president is. So what I think is going to happen is you're going to probably find a couple million ballots. And let me give you one statistic, Zeb, that'll sort of blow your mind. In just 353 counties, and remember, we've got many, many thousands of counties in this country. In just 353 counties, there are 1.8 million more ballots than there are people. So figure that one out. What do you do? In California, everybody on the voter roll gets a ballot. Now, California doesn't matter because Trump's going to lose here. But last year, this is just a statistic. Last year, we send out jury summonses based on the voting rolls. Last year, 449,000 potential jurors wrote back under penalty of perjury and said, I no longer live in the county that I lived in at the time of this. I was on the voter roll, so I cannot show up for jury duty. 449,000 people. And that's not everybody. Everybody in California didn't get a jury summons. Only part of us did. And yet there are 449,000 people who are getting summons that they shouldn't get. Now, those same people are going to be getting, they're going to be getting ballots. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be absolutely crazy. I think that the race is tightening, and what bothers me about that is that I think if it does tighten, I think Trump might actually win in reality, but will he be judged to win? That's another matter, because they're going to be counting ballots. And remember this, in a lot of these states, they've extended the ballots. You can vote even after the election. It appears to be the case in some states. And they have weeks to count them. So there's going to be all kinds of skullduggery going on here. It's also it's also very easy for people to lose ballots.
Let me ask you this, John.
For instance, in many ballots, at least in California, if you're a registered Republican, it says so on the envelope. So if you're a postman that wants to suppress the vote, it's very easy to take a bunch of Republican ballots and just throw them in the trash can. So, look, we've never faced anything like this. I think we could have done this a lot of different ways, but not the way we're doing it.
I've got to ask you, John, and make a statement prior to my asking this question. I have condemned and I have damned early voting in this country, because right now there's going to be, as of this morning, almost 60 million people that have already voted. And I question the validity and the integrity of our voting, and that's my question to you. Can we ever, after this election, ever reinstall or re-implement the integrity of the American voting?
Well, we do have to go back to voting close to the election. I mean, maybe 3 days, okay, but not 60 days. A lot of things can happen in 60 days, number one. I mean, what if today we found out, as I think we should any day, that the Bidens were completely corrupt and Joe Biden was a crook? What does that mean? Or that he's mentally incapacitated and we get more proof of that? Can we go back and get our vote back? No. The other problem is, with 60 days of voting, it gives people the chance to go out and recruit voters every day.
Yes.
And say, okay, if you voted, okay, get on the bus. We're going to take you in, we'll vote. Here you go. And you can't do that if you have regular voting. People actually have to get off their own fannies and get out there and vote. And will it ever change? I think what's going to happen is, especially if the Democrats win, this whole thing is going to be enshrined in voting. It's going to be considered voter suppression. You watch people say it's voter suppression if we try to cut that 60 days down to 3 days. Oh, boy, oh, no, you can't do that. You're trying to suppress votes. And so we do not have a system that works right now. It's really chaotic. And I'm afraid, here's what I'm afraid of. I'll just be honest. I think Trump's going to lose because of this. I think he's going to lose perhaps fraudulently. And he's certainly going to lose because of the 60-day voting and the mail-in voting. And I think the race is tightening. I think people are now getting scared of a Biden presidency. They realize that really Trump really helped their lives, and yet we're not going to be able to elect the person that the people really will to be in that office. I think it's very sad, and I don't know what to do about it, frankly.
One other question I wanted to ask you about, and again I say, please, no, Lord, don't let the Democrats have control of this nation as far as the Oval Office on down. But another issue that really bothers me, and I'm very fearful of, and I'd like you to elaborate on it, is the thought or the process the Democrats might implement to try to make the District of Columbia and Puerto Rico two more states. That really scares me.
Well, you just got it right there. They're going to do that. And that's absolutely what they're going to do. Now, I think they've got the votes clearly to get both of them in there. Now, what I'm not clear about is the process. That is one of the things that stumps me a little bit. I do not think it takes a constitutional amendment, and assuming I'm right on that, then this thing sails through. And what you have now is remember, the District of Columbia was formed precisely so it would not be political. It was designed not to be political. It was designed not to be subject to the whims of Democrat versus Republican. And now we're doing exactly the opposite. And so what we have is a little slice of the world that's no bigger than it's just a city, and it's packed with government workers, and 90% of them are Democrats, and guess what? There goes that balance. And, of course, Puerto Rico's... and we don't know what we're biting off with Puerto Rico. You talk about a liability there. I know that Puerto Ricans are given a lot of benefits of our country, but boy, we are strained to the max right now financially. Do we need a state like Puerto Rico where, the welfare rolls are going to really just expand tremendously? It's really very, 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 very problematic.
Let me ask you this, John. You touched on it briefly, but I want you to elaborate on it a little bit. Here we are 8 days from the election. Last week there were some bombshells that were released in the name of Tony Bobulinski, a former working compadre with Hunter Biden, and knew all about the material on the laptop and about the involvement of the big guy with money, and that being Hunter to his dad Joe. Is all this maybe going to change the complexion of Biden maybe being the president of the United States, and what kind of court cases are looming in the future?
Well, I'll tell you what, the reason I wrote my book Postgate was that the way the mainstream press has decided to fool people is not by out-and-out affirmative misrepresentation, although they will do that on occasion. It's mainly by concealment. You tell me how much of this Biden corruption makes it to the New York Times, makes it to the Washington Post, CNN, MSNBC. You wouldn't, if you watched those shows or read those papers, you would have no idea that the proof is really in there that Hunter was in on it with his dad, and that his dad, and it only makes sense. I mean, common sense infers that was happening anyway. He's not going in there and promising all these things to these governments without the governments thinking that they're going to get something for their money. You know, Joe's winking and nodding and doing what he needs to do to help his son. But now it's clear. I mean, the note that Hunter wrote to his daughter in which he said, unlike Pops, I'm not going to make you give me half your salary. Think about that one. And that only makes sense, doesn't it? And think about him helping Hunter out in the Ukraine. Mm-hmm. Think about him helping him out in Russia. Think about helping him out in China. But think about this. There's a $2 billion investment fund. We know Hunter owns 10%. Probably his father has half of that. But that 10% interest, with a regular performance of that investment fund, is going to be worth, just for Hunter's 10% share now, is going to be worth about $10 million a year. Mm-hmm. Okay? If the Chinese get upset with Joe Biden, all they have to do is say, you know, Joe, I think we're going to pull the money from that investment fund. It's from the Bank of China. I think we're going to pull it. Guess what? They own Joe Biden. They own Joe Biden. They own Hunter, of course, but they own Joe more importantly. The Ukrainians owned Joe Biden. And, of course, what happens there is it ends up tilting now toward Russia. It's been said. Hunter Biden's main client is a guy named Igor Kolomoisky. You don't hear the name much, but he stole $5.6 billion out of Ukraine. Left the country when Joe Biden got out of office. Now Kolomoisky is back in power, influencing Zelensky, the present president, and says, we're swinging back to Russia. Now, so what's happened? That corruption has put Ukraine into Russians' orbit in spite of all of the money that we've poured in there. Now Russia controls Ukraine. China, we have absolutely no control over China once Biden gets in there. And for the last several years, this investment fund has been buying military technology in the United States, which needs approval, of course, of the right people in the State Department and so forth. Well, guess who gets that? Of course, Hunter Biden and Joe Biden are going to get that approval. So we've been selling our military secrets to China. We have not been standing up to them when they've put in these military bases on these islands they're sort of making on atolls in the South China Sea that are probably within Philippine territory. Our national defense has suffered because of that, both on the Chinese side and on the Russian side. Now, Ukraine is a strategic choke point, not only because of the Black Sea, but because of the oil pipeline that goes through it. Bidens have already compromised our national security, all to get a few bucks. And if they get in power, I mean, God help us. I mean, this country's for sale.
John, I just could sit and talk to you all morning. I know we've got another caller with a question, but I'm out of time, and I just want to tell everyone the book is called Postgate, How the Washington Post Betrayed Deep Throat, Covered Up Watergate, and Began Today's Partisan Advocacy Journalism, and the author is John O'Connor, one of my very favorite guests. John, God bless you, man. Please come back soon.
As always, it's a blast. Take care now.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. And to the caller that was calling in, my apologies. I just flat am out of time for this segment. Want to remind everybody, vote November 3rd and be sure to vote yes for the levy increase for the Rock Creek Fire District. They are always there to serve us. Now, let's help them. Vote yes for the Rock Creek Fire District levy paid for by the Rock Creek Firefighters Association. Want to also give a great big shout out this morning to Lori Likely, and of course vote November 3rd for an Idaho representative that has worked very hard to help preserve and enhance our agricultural industry, protect our resources, and stand firm for family values. I'm talking about Lori Likely, State Representative, District 25A. Lori knows what's important for Idaho to grow and prosper, and she wants your vote November 3rd. Remember, Lori Likely for District 25A, paid for, Likely for Idaho, Bill Likely, Treasurer. Right now, we're going to send it back over to our main studio. We'll be back in about 3 minutes. Don't go away.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Thank you very much and welcome back. And we're running a little short on time, and we're going to get right to Dog Days. And here is our favorite lady to talk about that, of course, with Minidoka Animal Control.
Answering her phone.
Oh, well, let's just keep trying, and hopefully she'll pick up on that momentarily. Dog Days, like I said earlier, will be sponsored by the Minidoka Animal Control and the Wagon Tails Rescue. And we're waiting for Deb Hines to get on the phone this morning and visit with us for a few minutes. And Deb, if you're out there in Radio Land, please answer your phone. Sean's trying to get you on the phone right now. Thank you very much. Until then, give me a call at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Might ask the question while we're waiting for Deb to get on the phone with us. What do you think? Do you think this Hunter Biden and the computer and the allegations and the misappropriation of money and all of this is going to have an effect on this election, or with the suppression of this story by the news media? And I think there's only one news source that is really highlighting and carrying any of this story, and that's Fox News. Do you think that the general public is going to be unaware or uncaring about the illegalities of the Biden family? Give me a call and let me know what your thoughts are. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Once again, we are waiting for Deb Hines at Minidoka Animal Control and our section on Dog Days for this morning, and hopefully she'll pick up the phone and she'll be with us shortly. If she doesn't call or is not available, Sean, could you please give a call to Joe Larson, and I could certainly talk to him a little bit longer about the early vote and our voting coming up next Tuesday, if you could get him on the phone. And Joe, if you're listening, come on, call in. I've got a little bit of time extra, and I'll put you on the air. I asked Joe if he'd be a part of our program, and he said he would on behalf of...
Right now?
Pardon me?
You want me to call him right now?
If you would, and tell him we'll get him on a few minutes early. All right, thank you. Thank you. And Joe's going to be on there on behalf of being the Cassia County Clerk, and we're going to talk about some of the early voting and what his thoughts are, as we're very, very close, only 8 days away from the November 3rd election, a probably most important election ever in this United States of America. So I don't know what happened to Deb, but certainly hope all is well over in Dogland. And normally she's right there to give us a report on some of the dogs that need to find new homes. And it's kind of an awareness program for our canine friends. And I certainly hope all is well with her over at Minidoka Animal Control. And also thanking the folks with the Wagon Tails Rescue. I know this time of the year, take care of your dogs and make sure sure they have adequate protection. Who am I talking to right now? Is it Joe or is it Deb?
You've got Joe.
Joe, can you do me a favor and not be on the speakerphone? It causes too much of an echo. So if you can just talk into the transmitter of the phone, I'd appreciate it.
I got you covered.
Much better. We're on the air right now with the Cache County Clerk, and that's Joe Larson. And Joe has been so gracious about 8 days ago to come on the program and talk about this vote and the general election coming up on next Tuesday, the 3rd. Joe, can you bring us up to speed as to what's been happening here in this area with early voting and absentee voting?
Absolutely. As of Friday night, Zeb, we've had a total of 3,402 absentee ballots requested, which is approximately a fourth of the number of registered voters we have in Cache County, around 12,000. Of those, we've mailed out 3,297 mail-in ballots. The reason that number is less is because 190 voters have expressed a desire to vote in person rather than voting absentee, and we're, of course, honoring that with everybody. They can either destroy their ballot, return it back to us, and we'll reissue a new one. And our system does not allow for voting more than once. So people who are concerned about that, if they saw our process beginning to end with comparing signatures and issuance of ballot, they'd be amazed that it's very safeguarded in the state of Idaho and in Cache County. Okay, of the total absentee ballots sent out, the 3,297, we've received back 1,821 of them. And that's quite a few, obviously. There's still a bunch that are out, and I suspect there'll be others that will want to vote on Election Day or throughout the course of this week. So the total number of requested absentee ballots we received as of last week, which was the deadline for requesting an absentee ballot, is 44, and they'll be mailed out today and tomorrow. And this is the real astounding part of this. The early voting started last Monday. We've had one full week. We've got one full week remaining. That's here at the courthouse. We're also allowing for curbside voting for those that might be infected with COVID-19 and don't want to come into the building. We're prepared to vote curbside for those folks all during the week this week. We'd prefer anybody to do that this week rather than on Election Day, because we don't have the logistics to handle going to residences on the Election Day. We will go to hospitals for people that need to vote in an emergency, and the statute allows for that. So this week, the early voting, this last week I should say, we had 564 voters. That's over 110 voters per day. That's 22% of our registered voters who have already voted early vote. That's a phenomenal turnout and far more than we've ever noticed in the past. One other thing I'd like to add, that's the report up to date. One other thing I'd like to add is I got some interesting information from the state in regards to voter fraud that will be interesting to your listeners, I believe. U.S. Attorney Bart Davis has sent out an official warning that's been posted on the news media on election interference, voter intimidation, and any voter fraud, reminding them that those that may be involved in that or see others involved in that the FBI is standing by for any complaints, and his office has 3 people appointed to work specifically with the polling in the state of Idaho in the event that there is anybody that's challenging a voter, questioning them, photographing or videotaping them, or anything that's against federal laws. So they have 3 assistant U.S. attorneys to help in the state of Idaho to avoid election fraud and voting right concerns. And he stated, this is his quote, "The Department of Justice must act to protect the integrity of the election process." He noted that the Department of Justice has a long-standing Election Day program to monitor issues, and that it is definitely a federal crime to intimidate or bribe a voter, to buy or sell votes, impersonate a voter, alter vote tallies, or mark ballots for other voters against their wishes. And that's his words. So I wanted to pass that out. I think that's interesting for people to know that if there is any propensity for that kind of action, that there will be swift repercussions from the U.S. Court system.
Joe,
U.S. prosecuting attorney.
Joe, you are, in my opinion, one of the most straightforward people that could ever hold that position as a clerk and give us the information about what's going on with voting. I trust you. You're a very honest man. However, as we look at across the United States with the supposed voter suppression allegations, and then we have other people saying in other states, oh, well, go ahead and send your votes in anytime. We'll allow them 3, 6, or even 9 or 12 days after the election. This doesn't bode well for the integrity and the validity of this election.
Absolutely. I agree with you wholeheartedly.
So what do we do to clean this up nationwide? Here, you are on top of things. Here, you know what's going on. Here, we have the trust in you. But what about nationwide? What do we do to clean this mess up?
Well, I think there has to be the very thing that our U.S. Attorney Bart Davis has talked about. There has to be a semblance of responsibility on behalf of the federal government, where it is all federal government oriented as far as any violation of law is concerned, to where when something is noticed, something is seen, that there would be swift action. And unfortunately, we do see, and I know this is part of my partisan attitude, but we do have activist judges on the bench from the state level to the federal level to the federal level throughout the United States who turn a blind eye to certain things that may be inappropriate. That's part of the issue. And I've, of course, known Bart Davis since he was the Senate Majority Leader at the Republican Party. My son actually worked for him and was part of his crew when he was with the Senate. He's a good man, and he wants voter integrity to take place. But if we had every U.S. attorney with the same attitude, that's a good step forward. Another thing is Zeb, that I think we get a little bit sheltered in the state of Idaho. We have our larger areas like Kootenai County, Canyon County, Ada County, Bonneville County, that are the larger counties that field a lot more voters. There's a propensity for more difficulty in larger populous areas. So you go to large places like Detroit and Chicago and Philadelphia and Pensacola, Florida, and places like that where we've had history of there being problems. Why they don't get corrected, I can't tell you, other than the vast numbers of people seem to contribute to that more. But there definitely needs to be cleaning of the house that goes on with that. I've seen, like the rest of your viewers have, of ballots that have been sequestered out of garbage cans or bins, and of voters that either are all of one party or UOCAVA voters, which are overseas voters, people in the military, where they've been totally disenfranchised, and that is problematic, and it is a reason for concern. How to overcome that and answer your question is a real problematic thing nationwide. There's got to be some push nationwide to overcome that. This is our best year to have that happen because we have more attention towards the voting process right now than ever in the history of the United States. Hopefully that will lend some remedy.
Joe, I've got to ask you this question. I might have touched on it with you on a previous segment on my program, but we hear from certain factions and we hear from certain politicians that there's too much voter suppression, and when they look at people having to show their ID, etc., they say, oh, that's voter suppression, and they didn't have time to go to the courthouse to get an ID, etc., which I think is all balderdash. Are we making it too easy in kind of a return volley with those people on early voting? Are we making it too easy and losing the integrity of November 3rd as Election Day?
Well, I think that's a two-edged sword. Number one is the number of people that have to set aside that day that may not or cannot have an opportunity to vote. Early voting is a little bit like absentee voting. You can it actually parallels absentee voting. You can request your ballot early on or come in and actually vote early on, and they both serve the same purpose. That's the smart side of that sword. The other side of the sword is that does it take away from the Election Day process? It can do, and here's the problem that I see with it. Number one is when you talk about voter suppression, it's not voter suppression to have a minimal set of criteria that's required of everyone who wants to do something as important as a vote for a federal election. If it's a federal crime to violate somebody's right to do that, it should be a federal requirement that you prove who you are and that you say that you are a resident. You are a resident. We had an interesting email that I read last week on somebody who registered to vote in Cassia County. We went to our statewide voter registration system and found that they were registered to vote in Bannock County. That immediately curtailed that process, and whether that was a fraud-type situation or potential fraud, we don't know. But nonetheless, it got curtailed because we have at our fingertips a statewide voter registration system that curtails that from happening. That's really no different, in my opinion. It's pretty parallel to somebody having to prove their citizenship in the United States, to have to prove their citizenship in the jurisdiction in which they're voting for a 30-day period of time before being allowed to vote. And the best way to do that comparative is with signatures. And so I think signatures, photographic evidence of the person who they are, is not onerous to anybody.
Amen. We have a caller with a question for you, Joe. Stand by. Caller, please, you're on the air. Go ahead, please.
I don't have a question. I have an answer. President Trump had just received a notation on the Rasmussen poll, and definitely Pennsylvania is going to go Republican.
Okay. Well, caller, thank you very much for that news. I appreciate it. And we're on the air with the Cassia County Clerk, Joe Larson. Joe, let me ask you this. Pardon me. What about the states? And I asked you this the last time you were on the air, and I'd like you to elaborate a little bit. What about states like Pennsylvania and others that have said, oh, well, if we don't have your ballot by November 3rd, we'll give you another 3 to 6 to maybe 9 days to get it in. Isn't that just absolutely asking for illegitimacy in the vote?
It certainly opens the door, and there's no question about that. We have an election day, not an election week. And when you have an election day and you want to extend it in the backward direction in order to afford everybody the right to vote, it doesn't ensure anywhere, in my opinion, that you're going to have integrity in the vote process to go beyond the date. Date specific is important, in my opinion, because we have an inauguration on a given date. We have a lot of criteria between the election day and work that must be done to tabulate the votes. But to receive a vote after that date, I think, is beyond the pale, and I don't agree with it. I never will agree with it. In the state of Idaho and in our jurisdiction, any ballot received after 8 p.m. on November 3rd is not a valid vote.
Joe, what about the polling places? Explain to my audience, if you would, for those that are maybe moving into this area recently and they're not sure what polling area to go to, how would they find out that information?
There's two resources that are available for people to know exactly, based on their voter registration and their place of residence, which is included with their registration, as to where they'd vote. The easiest is to go to idahovotes.gov. That takes you to the Secretary of State's office. That's a service for everybody that's a voter in Idaho. If you enter your name, if you're registered, it will tell you exact location by map of where your voting location would be at each of the precincts where you can vote. Second Avenue is our own website, which is cassiacounty.org/elections. We have a listing of every polling location that's been designated by our county commissioners. It'll be open on Election Day, published very clearly on our election page. So there's two resources for folks. The third one, and probably the hardest one to get through to, would be a telephone call directly to us. We're fielding hundreds of calls each day, and it may be a while getting back to you. You might not be able to get straight through to us, but those other two resources are primary.
All right, we've got a caller. I've only got 2 minutes left. Caller, quickly, you're on the air with your question. Go.
Yes, good morning, guest. Do you see a two-class society being generated by what's going on? Because you've got wealthy people like Pelosi and Biden, if they do get in power, that the general population will be broken financially, supporting the people that are coming in here illegally.
Joe, do you want to get into that tall grass? I'll leave it up to you.
Well, I can see the concern. It's a partisan concern, obviously, and when you talk about the political differences between the Republicans and the Democrats, that's the primary concern in the United States right now. There's some very defined things that have come out through this election process as to what you can expect to happen depending on who you vote into office. My best statement I could make there as a partisan Republican would be that get out and vote for the candidate of your choice. because that's what's going to prevail, and we're such a divided nation right now that we can be heading in some pretty perilous directions, no matter what the outcome of this election will be, no matter what, and depending on what your aspirations are for what should happen. But there's no question that there are some political ramifications that will rest in our hands throughout the United States if the wrong folks continue to be in power or are in power. That will head us in a total different direction that can be very damaging for us.
Absolutely. Very well stated. You know, Joe, I'm glad I had the extra time this morning because you absolutely did a great job. The Cassia County Clerk, and that's Joe Larson. Final thoughts about Election Day, only 8 days away, real quick.
I would just remind all voters that you have options, and contact us if you'd like to hear what those options are. Curbside voting, early voting, absentee voting, and then Election Day voting. We're prepared and we'll be ready to serve everybody on Election Day and between now and then.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it. God bless you. Come back soon. Appreciate all you do.
Thanks, Zeb.
All right, sir. Cassia County Clerk, and very, very well-spoken when it comes to what to do, how to do it on Election Day, November 3rd. Thank you very much, Joe Larson. Time for the weather. Actually, it's past time for the weather, and the weather brought to you by Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. Hello, Don Scarrow and the crew. Number to call, 324-7657, or you can go to their website and check out all the delicious meats. ScarrowsMeats.com. I mean, we're in ham season. We're in turkey season. We're in prime rib and tri-tip season, along with all the different bacons and sausages. It's all delicious from Scarrows Meats over in Jerome. Number to call again, 324-7657, Scarrows Meats. It is phenomenal. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Chilly temperatures for today, but we will be warming up as we make our way through this week. Here's a look at your weather forecast. Sunny skies, a light breeze out of the west, right around 5 miles an hour. Looking at a high of 38. Tonight, mostly clear, below freezing temperatures, low of about 16. So you might have to scrape your windshield tomorrow morning. Tomorrow, looks like sunny skies, high of 47 with an overnight low of 21. By Wednesday, sunny skies, 55, 60 for Thursday, mid-60s for Friday. That's a look at your weather for Zeb at the Range.
Oh, she does a good job. Thank you, Gina. And again, the weather brought to you by Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. Or better yet, give them a call. Find out more information, 324-7657. At Scarrows Meats, they are changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time. What's on the program for tomorrow? Let's take a quick look over here on the calendar. We've got Dan Kish coming on with the American Energy Alliance. Another guest that a lot of people really appreciate because of his very open, candid remarks. Dr. Steve Turley's going to be on. I've got a bunch of doctors tomorrow. Dr. History's going to be on at 10:06. And then we've got a gentleman by the name of Dylan Howard on the program tomorrow. So we have an action-packed show for tomorrow on Zeb at the Ranch. Want to remind you, too, about our friends at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Man, they are busy right now because they know it's tire changing season. A lot of you folks realize that, boy, with these chilly temperatures, we're going to be getting snow. We're going to be getting the yuck and the muck on the highways. Make sure you check out all the great tread tires for your vehicle, whether it's a car, a pickup, SUV, whatever. They've got all the different tread designs, all the sizes for you. Along with that, the best in brake service, front end alignment, shocks and struts, and again, I say batteries. They've got all your batteries. So be sure and stop in and check it out today at any one of the 7 locations. James and Buell, Dan on Pole Line in Twin Falls, Lane and Rupert, Mike and Jerome, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, the Twist family in Paul, and my buddy Trent on Overland in Burley. The best, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. That's going to be it for today. We're going to put it back in the box until tomorrow morning at 8:06. And we always end the program by saying the way things were are the way things ought to be. And the 4 words that mean the most to me, in God we trust. And we'll be back here tomorrow morning at 8:06. Sean's going to be running the board, and we'll have interesting guests for you. Tune us in, Zeb at the Ranch, tomorrow morning, 8:06.